Welcome back for my final sit-down. I'm talking with Craig Finn, singer and frontman of the band Hold Steady, whose solo album, I Need a New War, is out now. Good morning, Craig.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. For viewers that don't know, I've written an essay about how much I love the Hold Steady. Craig, I really love your solo albums as well. We really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, it's exciting to be here on your last day, too.
Yeah, and things are a little loopy. We're having fun. Yeah, that's what he said earlier. He said, ooh, things are feeling really festive. They're feeling festive this morning. That's absolutely true. So let me ask, listen, I Need a New War, it's the end of kind of a trilogy of solo albums that you did, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't something I set out to write a trilogy. It wasn't like, from the design. But what happened is 3 records ago, I made a record in 2015 called Faith in the Future. And it felt right. The personnel, Josh Kaufman, the producer, the drummer, Joe Russo, and the engineer, Dan Goodwin, we basically just kept recording for 5 years, stopping to put out these dispatches, if you will. And so these 3 records were made kind of very similarly. And I think when at the start of those, these 3 records kind of mark a shift in my songwriting to something maybe a little more granular, a little smaller, and maybe a little more empathetic.
A little more empathetic, a little smaller. When you say that, do you mean in comparison to like the Hold Steady?
Yeah, well, the Hold Steady, I mainly write lyrics to music that's being brought in by other band members. Mm-hmm. And it's usually big. So I kind of big things have to happen. People have to get shot and fall off the roof and all that. Where I think the solo stuff can operate at more of a mundane, day-to-day, and maybe a little more personal, maybe a little more vulnerable.
Yeah, you're talking about your lyrics right now, they're really character-driven. And throughout your entire career, people have been like, oh, it's like novel writing. It's like these songs are like true stories. So what is it like to kind of focus on smaller characters who are maybe a little later in life, maybe not living these big, grandiose moments, but kind of just dealing with the day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's more of the people I know at this point. And, with not huge things happening. But I mean, I think the interesting thing right now is for me I wrote a lot of songs in the Whole Study. I've written a lot of songs about people making bad decisions, pursuing bad decisions, and
really going hard after bad decisions.
Deciding to do something bad and doing it well. But the solo stuff, a lot of times I found I'm kind of interested in writing with people who are trying to do the right thing, but still are having a hard time keeping their head above water. And these are kind of, I kind of trained it on maybe a little more unexceptional people that I see. And at where I'm at right now, that's just what I'm interested in writing about.
And that's what catches your eye. Let's talk a little bit about the audience, because you still do play with the Hold Steady. You guys still do big shows. Your audience has really grown with you, right? The Hold Steady started in like 2003?
2003. And the audience the community around the band is a huge part of what we do. And it was from the onset we talked about that. We wanted people to sort of have something to believe in, if you will. And it worked. And, people travel from all over the world. It's very, it's an honor to, we do these shows and people show up from all over. I came from New Zealand, Yeah. I met this guy in a bar the night before and he was like, yeah, we came over from the show from New Zealand. And I was like, and you didn't just tell me that right away?
He built up to it. He was like, just for the record, I've traveled halfway around the world to see your music. Yeah. Do you find though that your audience, they're growing older as well, right? They're kind of growing. Rock and roll can be seen as kind of a young person's game. Why is it important to you to kind of keep making music?
I mean, for one, I just love it, and it's a connection. It's making this connection. It's I think any good art is about that, trying to make a connection with the audience and make them say, hey, I felt that same way, and that's what I'm trying to do in all my work. But the Hold Steady, yeah, it's definitely grown. We have an older fan base now. Hopefully young people coming in too. But you can see it. I was like, I remember you from 2006, and you're still coming out, which is, it's an honor to have that, a blessing.
Do you find those same people that come into your solo shows, really following you on these records?
Yeah, a lot of them. I mean, the solo shows, it burns in a different energy. Obviously, there's less beer throwing at the solo shows, but people come up for that too, and react accordingly to that.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been making music for a long time. Before the Hold Steady, there was the band Lifter Puller, and really how people make money, how bands survive. Let's put it that way, has really changed. What stood out to you? There was merch, there was touring, there's streaming. What stood out to you about all that?
I mean, for me, I never sold a lot of records in an era where people were buying a lot of records, so there wasn't this missing part of my income, But to me, the biggest thing is how people react to commercials. You know, in the 90s, that was like a real problem.
It was like a big sellout moment if you sold your song to a commercial.
Yeah, now I don't think anyone blinks twice. You know, it's just, that's one of the things that's just part of the deal.
And is that that's one of the things that allows you to go on the road and to basically live your life?
Yeah, I mean, those are things that you had, those are things you hope for because they allow you, you know, they fund other things. You know?
Absolutely. You're going on the road. It's a solo album, but it's not like you're playing every instrument, right?
No, I have a big, I'm about to go on the road with a big band. It's a bass, drums, guitar, sax, piano. It's a more expanded solo band than I've ever taken out. I'm really excited because the new album is pretty lush. There's a lot of instrumentation, and I think we'll be able to do it justice with this lineup. Yeah,
and it is. It's super lush, but I would argue you talk about kind of smaller characters, but it's also speaking to an American experience. It's very current. I mean, you even have a lyric that mentions talking about the president on this latest album. Why is that important to you?
I mean, I think all these albums are in some way political. I mean, they're about the people. The people on these albums are most affected by the policies that come down, you know, healthcare. I mean, these people don't have, like, you know, that locked up. Economy stuff, jobs. So I feel like these are the people that are really affected by the policies, and by writing about them, that is its own political thing.
Do you have, it's important to me, for those unfamiliar with the band, you have a set of characters that you always went back to with the Hold Steady. And you even had a set of characters right in Lifter Puller.
Yeah.
And these are a new set of characters. Was there any temptation to kind of try and bring some of the other characters along the way?
There's always a temptation to check in with them, you know? But the characters, I think, I like to kind of keep the characters in their own universe, you know? So, like, Lifter Puller has its world, Hold Steady has its world, and then my solo thing has its own world.
Wait, hang on, talk about that a little. You're talking about world building, basically, as a lyricist.
Yeah.
What goes into that thought process?
Well, it's just you're creating these stories, and they kind of, you know, live in the same place, and you're like, well, I can't, you know, you can't write a song. I mean, you're just sort of are seeing these people, right? So you commit to one idea, then they can't be over here.
Yeah, you can't have Superman come into a Spider-Man film.
Exactly.
You got to keep them in their own containers.
Exactly.
I do have to ask, like I said, you've been playing music with the Hold Steady. You've released some new songs over the past couple. Like, truly, it's a phrase. You guys didn't take that long of a break, but got the band back together.
We sort of did get the band back together, you know.
How does that feel?
It feels amazing. I mean, we've had different lineups. Franz left for a while, our piano player. We got Steve Selvage playing guitar. And after 7 years, Franz came back. And now we're like, I mean, I say it every night when we play. We finally have the best lineup of the Hold Steady. It's like everyone, you know, it's the superhero. I don't know superheroes that well.
The Avengers. It's the All-Stars. It's the All-Stars.
Yeah,
we can go to basketball. We can go to sports. I get it.
Yeah. So everyone's on board, and it feels like, wow, everyone's here, and we're playing, I think, the best we've ever played.
Is there going to be a new album?
Oh, yeah.
That's it. All right. Deal. That's all I wanted to hear. Do we know when?
I can't.
Okay. Can't break that. All right. I really appreciate it. Craig, thank you so much for coming on the show.
All right.
Your music has meant the world to me. Everyone, if you aren't familiar with the Hold Steady, go listen to it. And if you aren't familiar with Craig's solo albums, they're incredible. I Need a New War is one of my favorite albums of 2019, and it is out now.